of tired of feeling less than. I have my basket with me, my harvesting basket and a scissor, because today we're going to harvest from the garden. In my latest video, I couldn't recall the name of this in English, and downtown homesteaders so kindly informed me it's called purple or red dead nettle, and it's actually in the mint family. I think that's what threw me off, because I remembered something about nettles, but it's a mint family. And it's not named anything nettle-like in Danish. So we are going to harvest a lot of these today for winter tea and summer and fall and springtime, but definitely for winter tea. One of my self-sufficiency goals is to not buy commercial teas. The reason being that if you don't buy organic commercial teas, it's probably sprayed with a lot of pesticides, and when you infuse that with hot water, warm water, you release those, and the thought of that does not make me happy. I am only harvesting a few from each area. I want to be sure there are plenty left for the bees and all the other pollinators that need them. Living on a really small plot, there's a lot of things we can't be self-sufficient in. And we could choose to just give up the dream entirely, or we could choose to only plant potatoes and be self-sufficient in potatoes. And while that's a noble thing, if you want to do that, go ahead, have fun. I want variety. I'm not a big fan of monocrop cultures. Not in the fields, not in my garden. I want my garden to be full of edibles, wild edibles, cultivated edibles, edibles of all kinds. And while some of the edibles, like this purple dead nettle, probably isn't one I'll go out and put into a spring salad, mostly because I'm not that great at eating those kind of things. It's something I'd love to learn how to do, but I didn't grow up eating salads, and it's not really in my repertoire yet. But one thing I do is drink tea. Being self-sufficient with tea ingredients may not sound like a big deal to some of you folks who have acres and acres, but if you lived in an apartment as we have, or if you're still there, or even if you live in a small suburban lot as we do now, you will realize, you will understand how empowering it is to drink tea from your own garden, or from your windowsill herbs, or from your wildcrafting, your foraging. That is something that is really empowering, and something all of us can do no matter what season we're currently in terms of homesteading and land ownership and such. It's something I've always wanted to do more of, and this year we're going to focus a lot more on preserving things for winter use, for fall use, for spring use. And one of the things that's great about the purple dead nettle is that you can actually use the leaves to heal sores and wounds, much like plantain, at least from what I've read. I am no master herbalist, so please don't take any of this as advice. I'm simply sharing my experience, and I will continue to share my experience as long as you care to follow our journey. but this is not experience advice at all. One of the properties that purple dead nettle supposedly has is that it is a mild antihistamine. And as someone who struggles and have struggled a lot with allergies, seasonal allergies, food allergies, intolerances, all of that, I'm very experienced in it. My oldest child is experiencing a lot of seasonal allergies. I want to experiment with this purple dead nettle, and I will make it very clear I'm going to experiment on me, not my child. But once I am confident in using this purple dead nettle, I will let my child have it in moderation and everything. No need to worry. I won't poison my children. It's a big focus for us this year to grow our own herbs and to grow tea for me. That is something we really want to do well in. And I'm just now trying to put my thoughts together around which things I want for my tea cabinet, because I imagine I will have quite a number of things. May not have large amounts of them, but I want to try out a variety of things. I have no idea how purple dead nettle tastes in tea, so I'm not going to pick a ton of it to preserve and realize that the taste is horrid to me. I'm also not going to make the same mistake as I did with stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is a wonderful plant. It is wonderful in teas, it is wonderful fresh in soups, it tastes amazing. But the thing is, I throw up if I eat it, or if I drink tea made from it. So yeah, there's that. I also can't handle, I think they're called ram in English. I also can't have ginger. There's a lot of those medicinal herbs and things that make me throw up. So I'm not going to preserve a whole bunch of this only to realize that it makes me throw up or something similar. So I'm going to take it very slow. And there's a bunch of ants here, but I'm taking it very, very slow. I'm preserving tiny amounts, just enough to experiment with. In all honesty, I may not get to experiment with it until fall and winter, because that tends to be when I drink the most tea. And the things I like and the things I realize benefit me, those I will note down, and then next year I will know to harvest and preserve more of those. Last year we preserved a bunch of thyme for culinary use. While you can use it in teas, I should try that. I should try using a lot more herbs in teas. We managed to preserve so much thyme that we have gone through all of winter not buying any, and that's made me very, very happy. So that meant last year we were able to be self-sufficient in thyme and in zucchini. And that sounds so silly, to be able to be self-sufficient in thyme and zucchini. But those are big things for people coming from an apartment. I've been thinking about making some videos sharing more about the things we actually did while still living in an apartment. I believe you can turn any situation you're in into your classroom. I think the saying in English is turn your waiting room into your classroom. I don't necessarily like that, because sometimes your waiting room is not a waiting room, it's your permanent situation for one cause or the other. But I think you can learn a lot, and you can do a lot more than you expect in any situation. And I also think a lot of the articles and such out there are sometimes pretty bullshit. Sometimes it seems like people who write those have no clue what it actually is like living in a tiny, damp apartment where you can't grow anything and you're just desperately long for land. I know what that feels like, and I sympathize if that is you. And if you're interested in hearing more about those things, please let me know in the comments. Let's get inside. Let's get these in the dehydrator. Now, normally I wouldn't run my dehydrator unless I had 5 trays in here. and you can dehydrate a bunch of different stuff together often. But because I'm completely new to using this plant, I'm only going to dry what I have, and I'm not going to dry anything else with it. So we'll see how it works out. I think homesteading for so many of us is all about experimenting and see if things work. I'm not sure if the whole use 5 trays guideline is based on economics or if it's based on anything to do with the drying of the herbs or anything like that. I have no. So let's fill this baby up with as much as we have. I am going to ever so gently rinse these because they are filled with ants and such, and I don't want dehydrated ants. I know you can eat ants, they do it in fancy restaurants. I'm not up for it right now. I'm not going to dry the plants afterwards. I'm just going to put them on here and slightly dab them to take the worst off. And I'm also not going to drench or soak them. I'm just going to give them a light rinse. So from what I've read, you can use both the leaves and the flowers. I think what's going to be the easiest to dry are the leaves. So I'm just going to nip those off and place them as flat as possible on my drying racks. I have some sheets on here to prevent them from falling through, because I find that really annoying. This work is a bit tedious. I could probably just put the whole plant in, but I honestly don't want more plant matter in there than I need to dry, because goodness knows energy prices right now, right? Is that a concern for any of you? Have you thought about the rising prices in energy and how it will affect your gardening or your preservation this year? Are you going to do anything differently? Right now I have to prepare this during the day to have the peace and quiet to do so. I won't actually turn it on until nighttime. It will just sit here and have the water that I just rinsed it in evaporate naturally from the heat of the house. And then tonight I will turn it on and leave it on for the night. This machine has a timer on it, which is something I highly recommend if you're going out to buy a machine. It's really nice to have a timer on them. I can't time when it's going to start, but I can time for how long I want it to run. This machine is really noisy when it turns off, so it's rather nice to have it not turn off in the middle of the night. Or if this was 2019, I would have just turned it on pretty much whenever I was ready to do so, because there was not that great of a difference in energy prices. But since we are now living in 2022, I am going to wait until tonight to turn this on. And I can tell that the flowers come out quite easily, so I am going to be able to dry those as well, which I'm pretty excited about, because making teas with pretty flowers, even though they go a bit dull when dehydrated, is really nice. So I can't wait to taste this. I have to brew a cup tomorrow just to taste it and see if I need to make more and see if it makes me vomit. There's always the risk. I don't know what it is with me and so many of those plants. I also don't know if all of those plants may be related in some way. So if you have more knowledge than me in this area, please let me know. The reason I started the YouTube channel was because I think it's quite fun to make the videos. I'd like the community that it brings and being able to share what we do in a more visual way. And I don't have any aspirations right now to be an expert telling you what to do in all of this. I just want to share our experiments and hear about your experiments. I have tired in some regards of all the expert advice. I think too many YouTubers, especially, I'm most familiar with the homesteading niche. I think too many share an unreal look at what life is like for most of us. They share a life where, for one thing, they can do it full time, and good for them. That is just lovely that they have that opportunity. I would like that opportunity one day. Wouldn't that be nice? That would be wonderful. They've also worked really hard to get there. I fully recognize that. But what they do now requires a lot more than one person, and many of them have people to help them. Some share that, some don't. It makes it to where I tend to feel, at least, speaking only for myself, less than, and that my efforts aren't good enough. I need another tray. And I have tired of feeling less than. I have also tired of this idea that to be of a homesteading mindset, to be of a more self-sufficient mindset, you have to do all the things, and you have to raise all the things, and you have to have acres and acres and acres. I think so many people discount what you can actually do on a little suburban lot when you get to work. And I'm here to find out what you can actually do on a small suburban lot, and hopefully share that journey with you. I hope we can help each other out, and I hope we can inspire each other to see that we can do things wherever we are. As I said, I'm doing this to share our journey, and I'd really like to hear about yours and get to know you better. It feels a little one-sided talking to the camera, and it's still so surreal to me that you guys are actually out there watching. So if you enjoyed this more rambly video, I would love for you to subscribe